but then like the fart noise, getting hit in the balls, like there's some things that are just timeless.
Live from the Willie Nelson and Friends Museum Showcase in Nashville, Tennessee, it's Music is Funny. Musicians talking to comedians about music and comedy. With your hosts, Raylan Nelson and Jonathan Bright.
I'm still smoking, I'm so high, I keep toking, I'm drunk, but I'm still drinking too.
Welcome back to Music is Funny. I am Raylan Nelson.
And I'm Jonathan Bright of the Raylan Nelson Band, back with another ridiculous and unnecessary intro.
A Jeff Dye. Okay, so we start off every podcast by, by the way, I'm Raylan and this is JB.
Nice to meet
What's
you.
up, JB?
How you doing?
Oh,
Good.
Okay, so we start every podcast by asking, what's the first music you remember loving as a kid?
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, this is kind of tricky for me. So I famously have bad music taste. All my friends tell me that. Everyone says that. I used to have a joke where I'd say if someone stole my iPod, they would return it. Because my dad had all these tapes always, and I think my dad might not have had. I don't want to insult anyone if I name those bands, but it was just a lot of things that a young boy wouldn't normally listen to. So I was like, "Oh, you guys don't know Three Dog Night? You don't know?" But I was like naming all these weird bands, and the kids at school are like, "We don't know what you're talking about." But Collective Soul was the first band I was obsessed with, and I thought everyone knew who they were, but nobody at my school did.
Where did you grow up?
Seattle, Washington.
Okay. What was Collective Soul's big songs?
Heaven Let Your Light Shine Down, Shine. They were kind of like journeymen. They had like 5 big albums, but they were never like the it band, if you will.
Yeah, was your dad listening to this, and that's how you?
No. This is a whole different era. Three Dog Night. I like Three Dog Night, by the way. But
good.
Like
what's
late
their
60s
song?
bands. Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog, the rock version.
Yeah.
But they had a bunch of songs. That's the one you would probably know. You'd know more than that, but I'm blanking on them. You'd like the Three Dog Night.
Yeah.
So
I listened to all the things my dad had laying around, and that was so that's whatever I could get my hands on.
And then were they CDs or cassettes at the time?
Tapes, yeah, just cassette tapes. And then when CDs came around, I was really into, get ready for it, Hootie and the Blowfish, all that kind of, Counting Crows, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You like the singer's, pop singer-songwriter kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When also I had a lot of teen angst, I was like a late bloomer and girls weren't into me and stuff. So I liked any kind of music that was like, I'll show her. So that was another genre. I liked the punk rocky kind of grunge, or not grunge, but definitely the punk rock kind of stuff also. Anything that was like that.
Boyfriend, he don't know. Like those kinds of ones.
Yes. Yeah, I'll show you, Janine. Someday I'll be a star.
So being from Seattle, did you were you too young when Nirvana and Soundgarden and all those guys were coming through? Or what age were you when those guys? Because there for a time in Seattle, you guys were it as far as music goes.
Grunge.
Music.
Yeah, grunge was the thing. I'm 40 years old, so Nirvana and all that, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Silverchair, all those bands were really, really key when I was in 5th and 4th grade. So I liked them a lot too, but I didn't think it'd be interesting to bring them up because they're good music. I like all that.
And you're a little, 4th, 5th grade. That's a little before you hit the teen angst period anyway. So you missed that by a few years. They were hitting with the, 16, 17, 18-year-old, just boom.
Yeah.
Also, living in Seattle and liking Nirvana isn't unique at all. It's kind of like if someone says, Jeff, who was your favorite baseball player? I would go, besides Griffey, it was blank. And it's kind of the same thing with that. It's besides Nirvana, besides Pearl Jam, besides all those guys, it was Three Dog Night.
We're around the same age, so around 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, everybody was listening to Hootie and the Blowfish and that sort of thing.
Yep.
But I was only allowed to listen to Christian music or old country. So I just remember people talking about it, but I was never allowed to listen to it.
So what was the Christian music? Let's do a deep dive on that. Third Day?
Clearly, as a good Christian, you shouldn't listen to Hootie and the Blowfish because that's some serious gangster shit
that's
right there.
secular. That's secular music and then can lead you astray, So DC Talk, do you know that?
Okay, yeah, I know DC Talk, yeah.
Yeah, that was really big around that time. Jesus Freak, that song, and then they would kind of parody old cool songs, but make it Jesus songs.
Yep.
Not really parody. They would just
Change the lyrics. Change the lyrics.
Completely steal the
how do you
essence
say
of
that?
it.
What's the difference in a parody and just stealing?
Well, because they weren't trying to make fun of it. Parody, you think?
Oh, you're trying to make fun of it.
They were just
a cover though. A cover is I guess similar.
Yeah, I think what they were doing is what commercials do. Instead of licensing a Nirvana track, they play the same kind of thing and just pick 4 different chords.
But a lot of those songs I knew from DC Talk. I didn't know that they were.
Well, she had us listening one time in the van. This is why we don't listen to music in the van together, because we can't ever agree, any of the 4 members. So we ended up listening to comedy and podcasts. But one time she fired up some DC Talk, and I was like, oh, I could tell which band was big at what, because I'd never heard them. I heard of them, but I've never. But I'm like, oh yeah, this is when Nirvana was big. Oh, this is the pop punk era and they would just kind of do those songs. Then they got sort of hip hoppy.
Oh yeah. And
it's sort of sad, isn't it? It's like, well, not sort of sad. It's very sad that like they can just change a few things and then be like, no, this isn't that thing that we're obviously stealing. This is different, and it's different enough. Like that's so unfair.
It's true. There just weren't a lot of Christian rock bands, which is
they covered "Lean on Me," and I thought it was their song. Isn't that fucked up? It's just because
I don't know how to respond.
I listen to a lot of Third Day, Supertones. I'm trying to think of the other ones, but I still occasionally, when I'm playing music like on shuffle, like one of those old Christian songs will like pop up. That's like it's been in there for years.
You listen to Third Day?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Whoa. Okay. And then what's the one that Polly played in?
Petra,
one of our drummers.
Oh my gosh, Petra was like one of the first ones I ever listened. That's amazing.
Dude, we had a buddy that played with him. This guy's 15 years ago, but they were playing like in Brazil to 100,000 people. It was wild, man. They drew a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, Jesus is huge over there. You know what I'm saying? He's a big celebrity.
Yeah.
That's true. It's very
in
true.
Brazil.
Did you ever hear Jennifer Knapp?
Yeah, I used to have a big crush on Jennifer Knapp.
Oh, she's a lesbian.
I know, but it's not like I really thought it was going to happen anyways. I just had a crush on her, you know?
Yeah. I wanted to bang Joan Jett too, but I didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah. I also had a crush on John Cougar Mellencamp, but it wasn't sexual. You know what I'm saying?
He's a lesbian too, I think.
Yeah. What was I going to say about so I basically listened to like Christian music, grunge, punk. The only thing that never really caught my ears was hip hop. And that's only because in Seattle, we didn't know, there was no one listening to hip hop when we were growing up. Like in my neighborhood, there was not a single kid. We had one kid in 5th grade Mike Krause was his name. And he wore a Wu-Tang Clan hat on the bus. And here's how uncool we were. We bullied him so hard. We were like, oh, look at he's got a Wu-Tang, all the Wu-Tang Clan. We're like being kind of racist about it and everything because we're 5th graders. We're idiots. And then he was like, they're not Asian. These are like the coolest black guys in the world. Like we don't have, what are you talking about? And he was right. We were wrong. Wu-Tang's like the coolest band alive. And like, we were just so out of the loop on anything hip hop.
Well, it was a few years after that until hip hop just took over culture, commercials, everything, back then it was still sort of crossing over, and now it's the deal, that in New Country.
Oh yeah. I would just have to pretend to listen to those. Like when I got about 13 or 14, I would make mix CDs, but say it was Christian stuff on it, or call it, May 2001 or something, and then it would have all what I want to listen to. And it would just, I'd have to sneak it.
Did you ever do this thing? I don't know if you guys are even interested in talking about this more, but did you ever do the thing? So I was very obsessed with trying to make everyone else think that Christianity is cool and not corny. So there was a lot of bands, like Creed would come out, right? And he'd like with arms wide open. And I'd be like, he's a Christian, because there was no internet. So I was just trying to like almost convince everyone, no, some Christians are badass, I'd listen to like POD or like any of these kind of like bands that were like not your typical Christian.
What did you grow up going to church like Sunday mornings and evenings and Wednesday afternoons, all that stuff? Like where did this
So my parents were agnostic, so it was almost like my rebellion to go
Oh my God.
It was the
these
punk
church
rock.
things.
The punk rock.
Yeah, but then also like I wasn't really going to because of any other reason than just we didn't have a lot of money. But like the church kids were always going skiing, or they always had some sort of event I got to go to, and I never had to pay for it, so I liked that. And then two, I'm out of all my flaws, one thing I'm not is mean. I'm a very nice boy. Even if people find me annoying or not funny, like I'm nice. I'm a nice guy. And the nicest kids at our school were Christian kids. So I was just like, I like these nice kids that aren't, getting in fights and things. Like I just liked. So those were the reasons I was drawn to it. So yeah, I was always doing church things.
Yeah. Well, if you're mean, you go to hell. That's why
Well,
Christian
I
kids
just
are nice.
don't want to be around mean people, no matter where they're at.
Remember the church lockdown?
The lock-in?
Lock in.
Yeah,
Lockdown.
I love those.
It was like a rave for young prepubescent.
Oh yeah, many of those I attended.
Yeah, you're like, all the adults here are like 18. That's who's like watching us. This is pretty cool.
Wait, will you tell him your lock-in story where please tell the story. You know what I'm talking
I
about.
don't.
With the fugitive guy.
Oh no, that wasn't at a lock in. That was on a church choir tour.
Oh well, it still counts. But tell the story because I love this story. I've even done this at a hotel once just because this is so good.
We were I was in 8th grade, so 12, maybe 11, I don't know. But we were on a choir trip, and the dudes I rolled with in the choir were they were nuts. They were sneaking cigarettes out and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, we were sleeping in a church. So like in a Sunday school class, there was 4 of us and then a bunch of people in rooms down with the counselors. And he would just get out in the hall and scream absurd sort of curse word things and then come running back in. And the one that I could remember is he just leaned out the door and he goes, "Crayfish cunt," and then ran back in. And that's the one that was the last straw. Got us busted. Somebody came storming in. It's like, I've never heard such filth in my life. You guys, it just, she doesn't understand what knuckleheads young boys are.
Oh, yes,
Oh yeah.
I
didn't want to like drink and do drugs and stuff like that when I was younger. When I was young, also there was no girls that were even going to like touch us. So the way you get everything out is like, let's go blow up the neighbor's mailbox, or like you just like, let's go steal tapes from Fred Meyer and say bad words. Like it's just like those. That's just how you kind of are at that age.
You get in trouble and your parents, like just the dumb shit you do. It's so like they just roll their eyes like, this is not even cool. Why would you, smash a mailbox? I don't know. We were bored, and they're just like, you could have hit a tree or anything. Why you?
Yeah.
Dumb
we
shit.
used to take stuffed animals and we would wrap fishing line around the stuffed animals, and we would throw the stuffed animal across the street, and we'd wait for a car to come and then pull the stuffed animal across the street so the car would go. Like, and in hindsight, we could have killed someone like so easily, but we just thought it was the funniest thing. We would run back to the house, like just like I was like in the middle of the night. Like it was just, those are the things that boys do. I don't know.
And I think I've never laughed harder than during that era with your idiot friends, just over dumb stuff.
Oh yeah.
Not even
like for fun. I remember in school being like, "Hey Jordan, you want to come to my house? We'll throw rocks at the cars." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll see you at 3." Like that was just like a normal thing for us.
I did that. I threw rocks at cars and got in so much trouble. But when the first couple that we did, I mean, we were rolling on the street laughing because we thought it was so funny. And then someone stopped and was like,
yeah,
where's your parents?
me and Bert Kreischer call it the frivolous misdemeanor. It's like, like that's our favorite kind of thing. It's like this, like it is a thing that's bad, but it's also kind of like, what's wrong with you guys? Why would you say that word in a choir place? Like it's funny.
Like it's just fun. And that's what it's got to be. You're a comedian. I've often thought about this. It's got to be so weird to, you work on an act for a year, 2 years, whatever. You get your hour down, you get everything perfect, yada, yada, yada. You kill, but you're never going to make a dude laugh harder than watching somebody get hit in the balls. I mean, it almost trumps anything you could possibly come up with. It just cracks dudes up watching dudes get hit in the balls.
Some things are timelessly funny. One of them is actually going away. It's just men dressed up as women. That used to be like really, that was like a SNL staple. It was if you're in the locker room and one of the guys comes in dressed as a woman. You're just like, what's happening? It was like just such a funny thing. I think that's going away
funny.
now. But then like the fart noise, getting hit in the balls, like there's some things that are just timeless.
Exactly. Blackface. No, wait.
Yeah, I think that one's coming back. I'm not
It's
positive.
making a comeback. And people are saying retard a lot more, I've noticed. That was off the books for a while, and now I hear people saying it all the time.
Because it's edgy. Once it's off the books, they go like, you know, like calling things gay. A lot of my friends are doing that again, like just as an expression for something they don't like.
Yeah, for lame. Instead of saying that's lame, they don't like that's gay. Yeah, I know.
So anyway, what's the first comedian you
circling back?
or did you ever play any bands? We got to ask that.
Oh yeah,
Did
did
you
you ever write a song? Did you ever play in a band?
I was the drunk on the plane guy in the Dierks Bentley video. That's my only country music thing.
Okay.
Almost won a country music award. Faith Hill beat us. Rude. Because that's my only chance of getting a CMA. Let's be honest. It's not like I'm so unmusical. Like I really like music. So sometimes people will come to comedy shows, and if they'll hang around and they'll be really nice and drink and have fun. And then it'll come out after like a couple hours, like, oh, you know, I want to be a comedian. And you're like, here we go. I knew this was going to happen. And so whenever someone isn't trying to be a comedian and they just want to listen to comedy, they want to laugh, they don't think they could be a comedian, they just want to be in our company, we really like that. So I try to be that with music. Like, hey, I'm not trying to get up there. I don't want to sing. I'm not trying to be a musician secretly. I just like what you do. I respect your stuff, and I'm proud to just sit here and be a fan.
Do you want to be on a song with one of our songs with us?
I'd love to see you guys. I'd love to be there and send you whiskey and talk afterwards. But I would have no interest in getting up there.
Maybe
What if you play a drunk guy on a plane in our
how
video?
about Drunk in the Van guy?
Drunk in the Van guy.
Yeah, I'd love that. Well, you know, it's like, do you know who Dane Cook is?
Oh yeah, we've had him on.
So Dane would he's so obsessed with like rock and roll and music, and like there'd be times we would go to things like in Hollywood, there used to be a thing across from the Comedy Store, and he'd be like, meet me over there, and I meet him over there, and I think that we're going to hang out. And he just wanted to get on stage and sing like that. Like he was just using his celebrity to get up there and you know, and so it's like, I'm not that guy. I just want to kind of hang out, and I'd love to meet the band. What's the band I met? Oh gosh, you guys would love them. I'm sure you know who they are. Dead Band? No, gosh. What? I'll think of it. I don't want to. I'm on my phone now, so I can't look at it.
Where did you meet
There was
them?
a band. What's that?
Where did you meet them?
I saw them, but the only reason I just thought of this is because I DM'd them on Twitter and said, "Hey, I'm coming to your show tonight. Big fan." And they were like, "We just left you passes. Come up and have some whiskey before we perform." And I was like, they don't even know me. Like they were just literally like, this guy seems cool. They looked at my Twitter and then they were like, all right, come on. And so I got to hang out with them. I wish I could remember the name of their band. I want to give them a shout out. They were so cool. They dressed like you guys. They had that very like hip, like what, I don't know what that'd be called, like brass band, kind of like big hats and cowboy boots. And I don't know how to explain it.
Hip grass. I like it.
I don't know what it'd be called.
No, so what kind of band, what kind of music did they play?
Like one guy had like a banjo, and then most of them had guitars, and they dressed like they were performing at Critter Country for Splash Mountain or something. Like it was like literally, you know, if a guy was blowing into a big jar of moonshine, it would make sense for this band. I'll think of it. Sorry, I'll think of it. The Dead South.
Dead South?
That's it. That's the name of the band. The Dead
South.
South.
We've got it.
You did say dead earlier.
Have you heard of them?
I have not. I'm gonna have to check them out.
Yeah, I'm looking them up now.
You've heard of them, right?
Dead
They're
South.
very, very, very good. And their music videos are kind of fun too. It's not too like overdone. It's just them playing. Like it's very. They're just like, which is the whole reason I started the story. They're just such cool guys. Like they're just like regular cool guys, and they play, and you're like, wait, I know these guys. These guys are so like just chill.
So Nate Hiltz, Colton Crawford, Scott Pringle, Danny Kenyon, and Eliza May Doyle. They are the members of the Dead South.
Maybe it'll be a band that you guys both will like instead of just one of you.
It's
Maybe
not
so.
possible.
I don't know if we can get all four of the band in, but yeah, we can every now and then get two people on board, but then you got two other
We
people.
like the music we write and make, you know. So,
Well, but that's fascinating because, like, what do you think that is? Like, is there music you guys hate?
Yeah, there are plenty of bands that I hate. I think I like something roughly in every genre, but
Okay.
but I don't like a lot of music, but I do like a few things almost in every genre. I do like a lot of music, but
I stand by if you can create something out of nothing, then somebody's going to love it. And it's pretty.
Yeah, but I wasn't asking about somebody. I was asking about you. Do you hate
Exactly.
any?
What a ridiculous answer. I think everybody should be fans of everybody.
I just love art.
Of course, there's music that I hate. Of course,
She hates a
I
lot of
will
the bands I
talk
love.
shit about that because it's still somebody's gonna love it. Somebody loves it. So what does it
Right.
matter if I hate it?
Oh, even bands that I hate, I just assume I'm not their target audience because
Right.
huge
Yeah.
bands that I hate, but I'm like, they're not writing songs for me.
Yeah, but that's what makes us interesting. Is just going, all right, these are the things I like, and these are the things I don't like, and let's see what we have in common. That's all. But I find it just hard to get into. I listen to a lot of sad stuff. People are like, "What are you going through a breakup? Why are you listening to this music?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Just I like it. Sounds pretty."
But when you listen to it, you listen to it like in the car or in the shower or something. You're not wanting to go to a show to listen to sad music, are you?
I'd be fine with that too. Yeah, like I went to a Goo Goo Dolls concert, and like you'd have thought I was on drugs or something. I was so feeling like every song because Goo Goo Dolls came out right when I was like perfect age of puberty. So like every song had like some memory linked to it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
"This is so." And everyone's like, "There's no way anybody likes the Goo Goo Dolls this much." And I was like, "No, this is my band right here." I loved it.
Yeah, the saddest part about a Goo Goo Dolls show is his plastic surgery he's had recently, I think.
Johnny Rez, yeah, the old ghoul.
Pretty tight right now.
Yeah, I love him to death, though. The weirdest thing I will say about that show is there's a song called Baby's Black Balloon, and it's about a woman who's a heroin addict. He's in love with her, and she's in love with drugs, and it's a ballad. It's very slow and very sad, very beautiful. And then during the concert, they released all these like beach balls that were like painted black. So people are like batting around these black balloons. I'm like, this isn't really a beach ball song. I don't think like this is
batting around heroin throughout the crowd.
Yeah, I was like, this is kind of, it feels a little tone deaf. I know it's your song, but it feels a little strange.
That's hilarious. So enough about music. Comedy.
Yeah.
What's your first comic that you remember, or what got you into comedy?
Yeah, no, what's
And
the
how-
first
how
comedian
early?
you remember loving or liking?
So I grew up basically watching SNL, like Chris Farley, Adam. I didn't know the difference between those type of comedians and like stand-up comedy. I just thought funny people is what I wanted to be. And so in first grade, I remember being like, I want to be like that. I want to be a comedian. So I've known my whole life this is what I want to do. And I also was like, I wasn't athletic. I wasn't very smart. I was real late to all that. Like I didn't even learn to read till after high school. Like I wasn't the best looking, so I wasn't getting attention that way. But by being funny, people wanted to be my friend or whatever as young as first grade. So I was like, I'm just going to be class clown every chance I get, every opportunity. I was suspended constantly. But I also remember them giving me like a talk like, well, Jeff, like you're going to have to figure something out. And I remember being like, well, Chris Farley, he's getting paid to just be funny. Like I like even at a young age go, that could be a job. That someone's got that job. I want that job. And so those were kind of the first. And then when I started watching stand-up, I really liked Daniel Tosh and like a lot of those New York guys like Greg Giraldo or Patrice O'Neill, which I think I was drawn to because I sound like I'm in therapy. I think I was drawn to them because I didn't have any brothers. And so like I was just it was a full girl house. And I love my sisters and my mom to death. But like I craved like boys being boys or like smoking cigars or saying naughty words, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. And those comics are the most masculine-y, kind of like make fun of girls kind of comics. And so I think that's probably why I was drawn to them a lot. And then Brian Regan is just so clean and funny that my parents didn't mind letting me listen to all his records. And so I loved Brian Regan.
Yeah, and the Patrice and those guys, just a ball busting amongst the friends.
Yeah.
You just watch it going, man, I'd like to be in that crew busting balls with those guys. Did you watch Tough Guy?
I love Tough Guy. Colin Quinn's actually a good pal of mine.
Oh, really? He's one of my all-time favorites. I can't wait for the small talk thing that he's working on now to come out. I've seen him on a few podcasts pimping it, but he, I think he's doesn't get the respect he deserves. I think the comics,
I agree.
all the comics know, like he's kind of the godfather in some circles, but I don't think the general public understands how much he's done and how fucking funny the guy is and smart.
He's hilarious. When he did Weekend Update, I was pretty young, and I remember watching. I know this. Even as a young person, I go, I don't even get the joke he just said, but it was funny. I could tell it was smart, and I could tell it was funny. Like it went right over my head. I don't know who, Dukakis is, but that was a good joke that he just did. Yeah, I really like it. So the first time I ever did the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, I'm like on cloud 9. I'm like just watching people comment about how much they liked it, or like I'm getting followers and, the normal things that happen when something exciting happens in your life. And so then I'm flying back to Los Angeles from New York. And NBC flew me first class, and I get on the plane, and my seat was right next to Colin Quinn. And before that, we had never met or anything. And he was like, "I saw you on the Tonight Show last night, young man. That joke about your dad." And I was just like, I can't believe my life is happening like this right now. And ever since then, we've been good buddies, and we text, and I love him to death.
So did you have to break the ice in the chair, or did he reach out to you first? I'm sure you're sitting down like, shit, do I say something? I can't waste this opportunity. But how did that go?
Well, this is a pattern of just me liking cool, nice guys. Like I hadn't even put my bag above the overhead. And he goes, "Hey, Jeff Dye." And I was like, I should be saying, "Hey, Colin Quinn," to you. Like, I can't believe this happened. You beat me to like saying hi. So he made it real simple, and I didn't have to like worry about it.
Sweet. That had to be as cool as the Tonight Show alone, probably.
Absolutely was. Yeah, I just wasn't getting as much social credit for that. But like Colin is a cool guy,
So let's back up. How did you get your start in comedy? You wanted to do it since your first grade, like talent shows, and then like how'd you get into the first club and the first open mic?
So when I was young, I always say like my first audiences were just like the classrooms, like by just literally like I was a terror to the teachers. Like they were constantly talking about me in the teachers lounge. Oh, they were always like, "Oh God, who got Jeff this year," or whatever. And I know that because all these teachers message me and come to my shows now, and they're like, "Dude, you were tough to compete with. Like we didn't really like having you in the class because you're supposed to have control, and you took everyone and you screwed everything up." But so I always say that was my first audience. But then after high school, everyone went off to college, and I was like, "There's no college letting me in. My GPA has like symbols in it. Like I had like there's no school gonna let me go to college." So what I did is I became a Young Life leader. And so that's like it's like a youth group. It's kind of like a springboard for real church. Because if you take people to church just outright, they're going to go, "This is weird and uncomfortable." And people are raising their hands, singing, and they're singing about the blood of Christ. Like, what is this? It's too much. So Young Life is a nice little, like a little diving board for church. Like they just give you a little, they introduce you to the things, they kind of whatever. And if you want to do more, you can go to church. And if you don't, it's at your own comfort level. But because it's so secular in a way, it's supposed to be like cool and fun. So we would do like sketches. We dress up as characters, try to make the kids like, it's very youth groupy. And so I would do that all the time, and I loved it. And that's just getting in front of people and doing like SNL style, like characters. And then after a few years of making $0 doing that, I was like, my buddy Ronnie Wilson, who was kind of like a mentor and big brother in my life, he's like, "What do you want to do? Like, you're broke, you're living on couches. Like, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, I want to be a comedian." And he's like, "You'd be perfect at that." And I was like, "I know, but I just don't know how that works." He goes, "Let's figure it out." So he just looked up what it takes to be a comedian, and we found out about what an open mic was. I'd never even heard of the word. And so I went down to Giggles Comedy Club. I signed up for the open mic, and I did terrible. But even while I was terrible, I was like, I love this. It's everyone's listening. You have attention. I know I can learn this. And from the day that I stepped on stage, 2005, every night after that, I was like, I'm going to a comedy club. Even if I'm just hanging out, like I have to be a part of like this world. And so I just fell in love with it.
Wow, that's a trip, going out the first time and not doing all that great and going, I'm actually having a blast right here.
Do you remember one of the first jokes you wrote for that first show?
Oh yeah. And also I wasn't just bad the first night. I was terrible for a long time. Like there's people to this day who probably are like, "We saw the worst comedian ever." They don't remember that it was me necessarily, but like I was so so bad. I would hold the mic really close to my face, so it was like kind of like everyone was like a little. It was like way too loud, and then I had all this like nervous energy. And Dane Cook was like the most famous comic in the world at the time, so I was kind of doing like a crappy, unfunny impression of Dane, like walking around, kind of like I'm a rock star or something. And then the jokes aren't there, so there's no pauses for the audience to know when to laugh. I was just absolute dog shit. And but one of the first jokes I did was about the movie. Have you ever heard of white noise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, where people like listen to static and they're like, I think I'm hearing my grandma, or it's just some dog shit like that. And so I made a whole bit about how like I don't think that's how the afterworld works. Like I don't think like ghosts are going, oh, I'm gonna go mess with people on Earth still, and it was as unfunny as me explaining it to you right now. But that was the idea.
He should go back and revisit that idea and see if he can pull something out.
Well, one of the ideas was terrible. Like one of my first laughs was about like why do we let animals kill people? Like I was like, oh, just because they call themselves poisonous, we let them off the hook. And I remember like thinking like this is gonna be my Tonight Show bit, and then it only took a few months of me getting better at comedy to go, oh yeah, that wasn't good either. It was just how it goes.
It's interesting because you're describing like young bands when they start off. Whoever your favorite band is, your favorite singer, whatever, you inevitably sound something like them. You can't help yourself.
Oh yeah,
that's just what you do. Like I'm gonna do my own thing, and like while you're just completely ripping off your favorite artist.
Well, and even now, I'm such a collection of things. Like I notice it just because nobody knows me better than me. Like I am so a mix of Norm Macdonald, Patrice O'Neill, all the Simpsons, Futurama, basically just like a collection of all the things I've ever found enjoyable. Ollie G, like anything that like I comedically liked. Like I'm such a cocktail of those people. Like if I just grew up in a small village town with no TV or Wi-Fi and I only knew like 20 people, I don't think I'd be very funny. Just like I think that just we're modern inventions of all these great things before us.
Yeah, I don't think that's that rare though, because a lot of the people you mentioned that you're taking stuff off of or absorbing, they did the same thing with people that were 10 years older than them. So it just kind of keeps building upon itself. So how do you get from Seattle to making it to Los Angeles and getting into TV shows and all that kind of stuff? What was the move there?
So because I was doing stand-up so much, like I was doing it way more, like a lot of the Seattle comics were very hipstery and they're like, I don't go to that club. That's the mainstream club. Or I only want to be around like the record collecting, flannel wearing Mohawk audiences and stuff. So I didn't care. I just like any place that would put me up, like I'd sign up for karaoke and then start doing jokes. Like, I was just so obsessed.
That's genius.
With the job and any stage time I could get. And so because I got more stage time than everyone else, I got better a little faster than everyone else. And so and Seattle's a small scene for comedy, big scene for music, but not for comedy. I kind of became a big fish in a small bowl within a couple of years. Like they would write articles about me in The Stranger or like in the Seattle Times. And I also didn't look like the other comedians. I'm 6'4". I'm a little better looking than a traditional comedian. I'm not trying to sound like douchey, but like every comic in Seattle was like a fat guy who's like, no one wants to fuck me. And then I come out, I don't look like them. I'm also smilier and more silly and playful. And so that was easier to stand out in Seattle. And so within a couple of years, Last Comic Standing came to Seattle and they were like, we want to see the best of the scene. And all the managers and club owners were like, you got to see this kid, Jeff. We think he's going to be a big star. I was also way younger than all the other comedians. And they put me on Last Comic Standing and I got third place on that. And because that's network television, that kind of just blew up my whole little small career that I had in Seattle became a national career.
Yeah. And that was back in the day when, streaming and the internet wasn't so prevalent that everybody was glued to their phone. So hitting a show like that, was it overnight? I'm sure. Well, I'm sure you probably went on tour with everybody after the show, but it had to help ticket sales. Unlike probably doing the Tonight Show nowadays, wouldn't give you that same kind of thing.
Oh, I do the Tonight Show pretty often and no one cares. Like, like I'll do the Tonight Show. I'll get like 5 texts, like whatever girl I'm dating at the time, like my 2 best friends, maybe my dad, maybe. Whereas like if I then the next day take that clip, from the Tonight Show and put it on my Instagram, I get like 1,000 texts because nobody's watching live television anymore. It just doesn't have the same thing that it has. Just a sec. Sorry, I was getting a call. MySpace was the best way to kind of measure it at the time. So like it was overnight. Like it sounds crazy. Like a lot of people like to talk trash about The Voice or American Idol. Like in comedy, it was very popular to trash Last Comic Standing. But I will never trash it. Like it genuinely made my career. Like it was like overnight. Like the next day I went from having, I don't know, 500 MySpace followers to like over 80,000 MySpace followers. I was getting messages. I was dating the Playmate of the Year, like within that month, and I was living in LA. And before that, like literally a month prior, I was sleeping in the back of a Volkswagen Jetta. Like I was in a way homeless. And most homeless people don't have cars, but I went from living in a car to like being like, I'm in Los Angeles and everyone's like giving me attention. Like it was all because of that show.
That's wild. And we've had a bunch of people on that have been on that show. Kathleen Madigan.
I love Kathleen.
Todd Glass.
Gary Goldman. But when you start talking about it, I think Kathleen brought this up. Like the difference between, I can see where comics would, musicians shit on The Voice, all that. I get all that. But with The Voice, you could literally just be a good singer and somebody find you out in a field somewhere. Comics, you had to have material, because if you were any good, you're going to move on to the next week and the next week and the next week. So if you hadn't done some comedy, there wasn't any open micers on Last Comic Standing. They had legit comics on there that some of these singing shows don't necessarily have, because you don't have to have a history of doing it. You could just have a really good voice.
Right. And that's the trickiest part. Songs. Like I remember like on my season when it was narrowed down to like the top 30 or 60, I can't really remember. They flew us to Vegas and I saw Sean Cullen there, who is this brilliant comedian from Toronto, like truly one of a kind genius. And I was like, oh, well, we're going to lose to him. Like he's going to win the show. But because television is a mix of casting and comedy, like they eliminated Sean Cullen. He's like kind of, he's old for what NBC is trying to put on their TV. Yeah. And he's a little too out there. So like that doesn't fit like this mainstream kind of thread that he got eliminated. And I was like, oh shit, I might win this thing. If Sean Cullen's out of it, I have a good chance of like winning this thing, like, cause they were like, put the smiley cute boy on, but like don't give Sean Cullen the spot. I was like, my mind was blown. If you don't know who Sean Cullen is, he was in the band Corky and the Juice Pigs from Mad TV. Oh, yeah. And they would do these really great parodies. Like he did the best like REM impression. They did all these like really funny musical things. Like you should just watch it on YouTube. It's so funny. But so the show's very unusual and weird, and I used it for what it could help me with, and I am very appreciative.
And you were lucky. I think you're way past the time where they made them all stay in a house together.
I lived in a house, actually. I was stuck in a house for 35 days with no computers or cell phones.
How was that? Because we've heard horror stories from everybody we just mentioned that we've had on.
Well, I'm different about this subject because, like I said, I went from living in a car. Like they were giving me 3 meals a day and good meals, unlimited booze, which I love to drink. I'm staying in a mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and I'm from Seattle, where it's always rainy, gray, and cold, and it's like LA weather. Like we could like sit out on the pad. Like I'd never had. My parents are broke. I couldn't believe it was happening. And then they would hand me like an envelope of like $1,500 cash and be like, oh, this is your per diem for food. I'm like, but we're not allowed to leave the house. And they're like, yeah, but legally for SAG-AFTRA, we have to give you this much money for food. And I'm like, but you're giving us food. And they're like, I know, just keep the money, put it in your bag. And I was like, this is it just felt like I was living in a dream. Like I was just, I couldn't. So my impression of the house would be different than someone who has kids or, a veteran. Kathleen Madigan's the best. Like I can't imagine her ever doing anything she doesn't want to do. So it's kind of, I get hearing her complain about it as opposed to some young idiot who can't believe he's getting a roof over his head.
Yeah, Kathleen's the coolest. We've become semi-friends with her. She lives in town now. So
she moved to Nashville?
like a while ago. Yeah, she's
I
been
did
doing it
not
for a
know
while.
that.
So
Weird.
how old were you when you were doing Last Comic Standing?
23.
Oh, perfect age for that then. It didn't matter
Yep.
where you slept or how loud it was. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Didn't care at all. And the only bad part was no Wi-Fi, so I couldn't watch porn or anything. But I was like, I can make it 35 days if I just drink and whatever.
Did everybody get along pretty well in the house?
No.
Okay. Did the producers
There was there's one
have
woman,
anything to do
I
with
won't say her name. Let's just call her Eliza Schlesinger. She was not a pleasure to work with at all.
that? Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
that was,
It seems harsh, or just kind
Yeah.
of.
Well, here's the thing. Lots of people love her comedy, and
She's funny.
lots of people are big fans of her. I'm not criticizing that. I am saying when it just comes to another human trying to get along with another human, she has no interest in it. At least with me. I metaphorically blew that woman through 90 cities every day trying to get along with her, and she just is frigid at best. And I've went to therapy over it. I just want everyone to like get along. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to be nice. And she does not have that same value system, and so we clashed a lot.
yikes. I got to ask you about, you did some TV with Shatner, George Foreman, the Fonz.
Yeah.
What's the fourth one?
Terry Bradshaw
Terry Bradshaw.
and Henry Winkler.
How? Yeah, the
Oh, the
Fonz.
Fonz, yeah.
That's why I remember him. How was that? How were those dudes? How was working with that eclectic cast of characters?
That was also a dream because they flew us first class internationally to all these different countries. And so we literally we got to do the funnest things in every country for free, for heaps of money. And just getting to see the world like that is such a fun way to do it. A lot of people that have never heard of me or seen me before or are familiar with my work, you think, well, why am I with those four guys? Which is a good question, because those guys are like legends. And, I kind of represented the viewer. So it'd be like, if you're watching, you're like, I wonder what it'd be like for me to be with these four guys on vacation. You watch it through my lens. Like you would be the everyday man who's with them, because I was the one who had to set up the hotels. I was the one who I'm planning the day today. But when I don't speak Japanese, I don't know how to find this hotel and these kind of things. So, and NBC loved it. They're like, no, we don't mind if you screw up, because it's just going to make these guys all grumpy, and then that's going to be good TV. And so I constantly was trying to plan a good vacation for us, but hiccups would arise, and they're used to these really lavish lifestyles. And so they were such a pleasure to work with. I still keep in touch with 3 of the 4. Can you guess which one I probably don't keep in touch with?
George Foreman,
Nope.
Terry Bradshaw.
No.
Henry Winkler.
You guys are William Shatner.
Shat, really?
Yeah, have you guys ever had him on?
No.
I was on Dr. Drew's podcast, and he was the other guest that day, so I just got to say hi to him, kind of, but they were talking.
He's a tough cookie. He's one of these guys. He's always lived in his own universe, and
He was in Twilight Zone, though.
He's been around forever.
He's in his 90s. I think he's 92.
Yeah. That's crazy. How's Henry?
Yeah,
because Henry Winkler is one of my favorite, just watching from the Fonz all the way through Arrested Development.
He is the sweetest guy and so funny and such a pleasure to work with and be with. I could call him at 9:00 at night, and it's like my dad answers the phone, like, is everything okay, Jeffrey? And I was like, yeah. I just was calling because I'm here with so-and-so, and they said they were a fan, or they said they worked with you. And he'll be like, oh dear, you called so late. I thought something was wrong. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Jeffrey. Like, he's like the nicest, best guy that way. Like, he's just everybody's dad in a way. Like, he's just a cool guy. Terry's my favorite. And when I say my favorite, I'm not talking about the show Better Late Than Ever. Terry Bradshaw's my favorite human. I mean, he is the yin to the yang of Eliza Schlesinger. Like, Terry Bradshaw loves everybody. He just wants to have fun and play and be silly. Like, if some bad things rear their head, Terry's always like the most chill to be like, we'll get this worked out. Don't worry about it. Like, he's just like the most sincere guy. I once had a friend go, because he didn't know my relationship with Terry, and he's like, I think you'd be annoying. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's what you think you would feel. if he walked into a room, he would love on you. So he would know both your names. Like if he walked in that pocket, he's very pawy. He touches everybody, and he's like very like just big and seasy. He's very much like a dog human.
What was the worst moment? Was there any huge freakouts on that show? Anything behind the scenes that got kind of gnarly?
There was a flare up between Shatner and Henry, but it was just because I don't know how to explain it. I think when you're as famous as these four guys, you're used to being the famous guy.
Yeah.
And this is not like a shame on them in any ways, but like you everything goes around you. What do you want to eat? Where do you want to go? Who, so when it's four of them, they've got to kind of share this. So sometimes they're, for a lack of a better word, egos kind of bump or can a little bit. Whereas Terry Bradshaw's only worked in a team. Terry Bradshaw he's a quarterback. Like he knows how to wrangle a team. He knows how to be the leader of a team. He knows how to like work in a team. Then he went to being a broadcaster where it's him, it's Jimmy Johnson, it's Michael Strahan. So even that, he knew he has to work on a team. There's give and take. He was so good at that. Whereas the other guys, especially being a boxer, George Foreman, I mean, like you live between your ears your whole life. Like you don't even really talk to he brought his son, who's also his manager, a guy named Big Wheel. Shout out to Big Wheel. And they would just sit alone, and they'd even have headphones in while they eat. Like they didn't even talk to each other on the thing. So I just think a lot of those guys are used to having their own thing and being alone, whereas as Terry wasn't. But there was never any huge flare-ups.
Yeah, man, you've had sort of a blessed career as far as the people you've gotten to work with and meet and stuff like that. Sort of just.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah.
Also, it was kind of fun on like day one of that because like my mom and dad and people that are my mom and dad's age will say, "Man, were you just starstruck every single day?" And I try to remind them, I was like, "No, because those were your guys. Those weren't really my guys, if that makes sense."
Totally.
So
like if it was Hulk Hogan, Ken Griffey Jr., like I would every day go, "What is happening?" But like it was just kind of a generation before mine. So that made it a lot easier to just be one of the guys.
Yeah. So fuck, marry, kill. Do you want to play that game with those guys? Which one would you fuck?
That'd be easy.
Would you kill?
Yeah, no, I would marry Terry Bradshaw. I would fuck Henry Winkler, and we'd kill William Shatner. But we don't have a fourth one for Foreman, so let's just marry him also.
You'll have to blow him. That's
yeah. Well, but here's the thing. If old Georgie heard this, he would be pretty upset.
Yeah. Well, you don't want him fucking you. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. He's a man of the Lord.
He might impregnate you too, because he's very fertile.
George.
He's had a lot of kids.
Yes, George Jr.
Okay, before I let you go, when's the first time you remember hearing about my grandpa Willie Nelson? Do you have your own personal Papa Willie story? Do you know?
I don't. But I do remember the first time I heard of Willie Nelson, because again, Seattle, not a big hip hop area and also not a big country area. Right. For like whatever reason, like if you were listening to country or something, there was this place called Dakota's, and it was like the only country line dancing place like in the area, and so there was like 3 or 4 like beautiful girls that we knew who were like, "Let's go country line dancing," and we're like, all right, we have no idea what we're doing. We look terrible. And so we're like, all right, these girls want to go there. And there was a picture of Willie Nelson. And I remember we were like, look at this guy. Who's this guy? And they're like, you don't know Willie Nelson? We're like, oh, I mean, I love Willie Nelson. Like we like just kind of like lied back to the hot girls.
You. Yeah, I just want to know if you knew who it was. I was just kidding.
Yeah, I think he kind of looked like Native American in the picture too. Like he had like the braids, and also we were probably buzzed up or whatever, and we were like, look at this guy. And then I just remember that they completely turned us on. I was like, no, you guys are fucking stupid if you don't know who Willie Nelson is. And I was like, well, we're just kidding. We know Willie Nelson. And then you lie about it that night and then go read up on him the next day. But I have become a big fan since my age of 20.
Yeah, that's a good story. Dude, thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I love it. I was telling Thomas, I was like, I would love to do that if I'm around. So thank you for having me. When is this going to come out? When can I help plug it?
This next one, like not tomorrow, Wednesday, but the next one.
Okay. I'd love to come see you guys if we cross paths. I would love to see the band.
Dude, if you're ever in Nashville, let us know too. We'll tell you where not to go at the very least.
Perfect. And then we'll edit that part of me looking for the song or looking for that band if you think that's...
We'll edit some of it out.
We'll
some
see.
of it's cool.
Sometimes it feels a lot longer than those things actually are. What
Yeah.
I'm,
But it's
but we'll see.
I would just be remiss if I didn't give Dead South the shout out that I
I
think they deserve.
know.
Speaking of shout outs, you got anything else coming up you want to pimp real quick?
Sure. All my socials are just my name at Jeff Dye. I'm a huge baseball fan. I just love baseball. It's as American as Willie Nelson. And so when it comes to the baseball parks, I've always wanted to see every Major League Baseball stadium. Well, I did that in one season. That's how fast I knocked it out. So I was like, all right, I need a new goal. So my new goal is to throw a ceremonial first pitch at every baseball stadium. And I've already done 15.
Wow.
Like I've already knocked out 15. And then next week I'm throwing one for the Reds. The week after that, I'm throwing it out for the Chicago Cubs. And then I've got the Phillies, the Pirates, and the Mets lined up for the following month. And so look at my socials to see when I'll be at these baseball parks throwing my first pitches and doing my thing. And then I have a show on Fox called Who the Bleep Is That I made with Harvey Levin from TMZ.
Oh, yeah. So how are the pitches going? Are you striping most of them?
Yeah, I
Are
was
you
gonna say,
putting
are
in
you
the
doing
dirt?
good?
Or how's it
Yeah,
going?
I wouldn't say I'm athletic, but if you saw me play baseball, you go, oh, that guy plays baseball. And so if you only have to throw one pitch, I look like a player or something because it's like it's just one pitch. So it's been good. There hasn't been anything embarrassing yet. But we'll cry. I also always throw to the mascot because it's a big, soft target.
That's a nice move. Yeah. In case you get a little high with it and pop him in the head.
Yeah, and I can throw it in as hard as I want because it's not going to hurt that guy in there. It's just it's a big, soft
And
costume.
You can't do any worse than 50 Cent trying to throw out the first pitch.
Oh my gosh, wasn't that terrible?
Oh, you probably.
I almost think these guys like Aoki, right? Steve Aoki, Conor McGregor, and 50 Cent. I can't think of more manly men, and all of them can't throw a baseball.
Cannot throw a baseball. I mean, not just off. Like it looks like a girl throwing left-handed.
Hey.
Yeah, it's true. He's right. It looks absolutely terrible. And I for a long time I was doing a joke. It's like, hey, you can really tell he didn't grow up with a father after that first pitch.
That's a good.
But you think you would just kind of mimic what the baseball players do, right?
Apparently, it's not that easy. I can throw.
They're
a ball.
trying to, but
Yeah,
I mean, the motion you just did is more athletic than these first pitches.
Oh, yeah. Well, I played
just the
softball.
motion you just did.
I played softball, so.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Well, you would have done like this, underhand.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do a big circle.
Yeah, big
But
circle.
I would be mimicking. I would pull my knee. Pull my knee up real high.
We'll pull it up on the phone after
And
this and let you see 50 Cent, and
Okay.
you'll
You'll laugh. Wait, so you've never thrown a first pitch?
No, do you want me to do that? I'll do it. Who do I
Yeah, I'm
call?
surprised. You should throw a first pitch. They'd love to have you.
We've got a minor league team here. The
Maybe
Sounds.
the Sounds will let me do
I'll
it.
let you throw out the first pitch.
Tom, I'll get Tom.
I do
on
love
it.
the Sounds.
They
Big
got a
fan.
great new stadium here.
I played in it in a celebrity rock and jock with Terry Bradshaw and Jelly Roll.
Yeah,
There was a bunch of
totally.
people there. It was, I think, like a year and a half ago. Really, really fun.
Yeah, really cool new stadium. Cool club right beside it too. Anyway, thanks again for
All
doing
right.
this, dude.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me. And like I said, just shoot me all the information.
We'll let you.
Thanks, man. Jeff Dye is my favorite comedian.
Yeah, man, he was funny.
Yeah.
Talked about the Fawn. A lot of great stories.
Mhm,
Got to
mhm.
check out his first pitching. Throwing at the first pitch. Anyway, enjoy your burgers.
Don't be an asshole.
I know you're almost there. Did we cheers yet? Enjoy your cigarette.